Hey traders, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about DATS, ticker symbol DATS. Now, this is a stock that recently IPO'd and since then has gained a lot of attention from the FinTwit community and online stock community as a whole. I've taken a look at the DD, I've taken a look at the company, I've taken a look at the app, and I think there is a ton of potential here. We're talking about an absolutely insanely huge market with billions of potential users, and it's a $1 trillion industry. And this is a very, very disruptive product here. So I think there's a lot of potential there. And as a result, I decided to hop into the numbers and try to come up with a price target. There's very limited data out there for this specific app right now, but I did build up a model using very, very conservative estimates and numbers based off of previous precedents. And I think this is going to be absolutely mind-blowing of, where fair value for this stock is going to be a few years down the road, and makes it very, very appealing as a potential, long-term investment. Just throw it into your retirement accounts and forget about it. And in this video, I'm going to break that all down for you. I'm going to explain kind of, my entire process when it came to figuring out that calculation. And then after that, as always, I'm also going to look into the charts because I think that there is also some short-term opportunity there. I'm going to break down, key levels, key indicators, and everything else you have to keep in mind. So we best know how to play it moving forward. But without any further ado, leave a thumbs up on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's get started. Okay, so yeah, I'm not really going to focus much on the DD here. There's plenty of resources online that have already done DD for this stock. I would definitely refer you over to Mr. Mike Investing and his thread on it. You can find that, just by searching him up, or I also retweeted it last week. So you can follow me at Dr. Magoops on Twitter and search that up. But definitely take a look at that. You can also take a look at the investor presentation that the company made on the company website that you can download. And that came out in July 2021. So also pretty recent, developments there that are being talked about. But all that being said, the DD looks great. Download the app for sure, test it out yourself. I think there's definitely a lot of potential there. But now let's hop into the calculation of the price targets. Okay, so a few things to keep in mind before we get into the actual math. First thing, we need to establish what fair value is per user for a messaging app. That's what we're going to calculate here. And in order to do that, I used the precedent set by WhatsApp all the way back in February of 2014. Obviously, WhatsApp is a lot bigger than DATS. It's been around a lot longer. But back in 2014, it was acquired by Facebook, where they paid $21.8 billion or $55 per user. Now, obviously, with inflation and just kind of the growth of messaging apps in the digital age, this number should be a lot higher. But we're going to try to keep our estimates as conservative as possible. And we know that, this is at least the bare minimum that, we should value a user of a messaging app. And so that's what we're going to use in our calculation. Next thing to keep in mind is that we do already have a little bit of data available for DATS. Obviously, the mobile app was just released about 4 months ago, so we don't have all that much data. But in the first 3 months of DATS being available for public download, they received 50,000 downloads on the Google Play Store. You can check that on the Google Play Store itself. So we can assume a similar number for Apple, bringing the overall downloads in the first 3 months to 100,000 users, which is, a pretty solid start there. And then the final thing we have to keep in mind is the growth rate for users of a mobile app. This doesn't just grow at a linear rate. Obviously, we're not just going to expect that there's going to be 100,000 additional new users every 3 months. We know that, with word of mouth, with apps going viral and whatnot, they grow at a lot faster rate. They grow at an exponential rate. And so in order to figure out exactly what rate that is, we're going to use the average growth rate for users of a specific app has been 251% over the last 5 years. That's an annual growth rate. We're going to turn that into a growth rate that fits our 3-month data set. So we're going to take that annual growth rate, make it a quarterly growth rate. And the math is laid out right here. I took that 251%, did the math, and all of a sudden we have a 36% quarterly growth rate. That is ultimately going to end up being, pretty monumental once we start getting into the numbers a little bit more. Then I was able to set up the exponential formula. So assuming the 36% quarterly growth rate in X years, the active user base for DATS should be 100,000, which is our base user base. And then you do the growth rate, and then you obviously take the exponential of that times 4, because this is 3-month period. So if we're going to figure this out in years, we're going to have to multiply it by 4. So in 1 year, we're going to plug in 1 for our X year. We're going to get to 340,000 users. So pretty nice growth over the initial 100,000. In 3 years, we're going to get to 4 million additional users. And in 5 years, plugging just, the same variable into that X slot, we're going to get all the way up to almost 47 million users. So as you guys can see, not linear growth, definitely exponential growth. And that's why, the future for this company is so promising. We are still in very, very early development here. And now let's assign some fair value to that. So fair value for ticker symbol DATS based off of expected user base that we just calculated up here, using the WhatsApp model of $55 per user value in 5 years is going to be the 46.9 million users multiplied $55 per user divided by the current shares outstanding. And that's going to give us a fair value price of $192.80 down the road. So this is obviously monster potential here. This is all based off of math. This is all based off very, very conservative estimates here. And we're saying that, at a minimum, this should be right around $200 per share 5 years down the road. That's growth of over 2,500%. And it's the reason I'm very, very much looking forward to investing in the stock long term. But other things you do need to consider as we wrap up the PT calculation. The price target calculation only factors in mobile user data. It does not factor in any other bullish or bearish factors. The main bullish factor this calculation doesn't include is the future product pipeline as laid out in the July 2021 investor presentation. This includes dating marketing campaign, desktop version release, and the world's first communication-based blockchain, all by the end of the year. Obviously, all those things are very, very exciting and could add additional value to the stock. The main bearish factor for this calculation the calculation doesn't include is the potential for dilution. Companies can often resort to diluting common stock when they are in their initial stages of growth. So as a result, if they were to dilute shares, we would see this number go down. But obviously, we can't really speculate on any of that. We have to just kind of give and take what the math gives us. Other things to keep in mind is that averages are misleading. Okay, the 251% compound annual growth rate used for our calculation is almost certainly skewed. The top 1 to 5% of mobile apps probably have an exponentially larger growth rate than the 251% baseline. Meanwhile, most apps are probably much lower. There's no way to tell whether DAT Chat will become a top app or not, so it's impossible to deviate from the averages. But so far, everything that's been released for this company has been promising. So that's kind of where we're at when it comes to calculating the DATS PT. But as you guys can see, absolutely monster potential here. Now let's hop into the charts because I think, there's a nice kind of short-term setup in the making as well. Now, keep in mind, as I record this, SPY has fallen off a cliff. So if the overall market is struggling, there is a chance that, volume flows out of the market and we're not able to kind of realize the potential here. But, as you guys can see, we've been establishing this nice little uptrend over the month of September. We're setting higher lows, higher highs, and, we are now getting really set to kind of make a push for double digits, where I definitely believe that the stock should be trading at. But, hopping into the indicators, really not much to get into with our moving averages like we normally do. And that's just because, the stock's only been around for a month. It's a recent IPO. We don't have any longer term moving averages to base off of, but we do see that the 9-day EMA is here at 734 or 724 rather, and the 21-day is at 675. DATS is currently trading above both of those. So that definitely is a bullish indicator in the short term, showing that there is currently bullish momentum. Other indicator to keep in mind is going to be the RSI on the 14-day. As you guys can see, it is a little bit overextended here. We do see that, the stock price has almost doubled since the initial IPO price. So that is something to keep in mind, but we have seen some good consolidation here over the month of September. So that is promising. It shows that, we could be setting up for another move to the upside very, very soon. All that being said, now let's hop into our key levels. Okay. First off, starting on the support side, our first support is going to be right here at 735, but we have a much, much bigger support right here in this $7 to $6.90 level. As you guys can see, over the course of the last week or so, it's been tested. It's held up very nicely. A few different times we've seen massive volume come in whenever it does go test that range. So that's something we're going to continue to keep in mind as a very, very good support to kind of base off of. If it does go below that, we do have support at 650. And then once again, another strong support zone at 620 to $6. When it comes to support, I always say this with any stock that if you are looking to add to your position or open a position, you should always try to do so near a support level. By doing so, you minimize your risk and you maximize your upside. But speaking of upside, our first resistance level we're going to need to get over is 770. If we do that, we're going to expect a move to retest $8. This is a tricky level for ticker symbol DATS. It's obviously a whole number, so there's a psychological resistance there as well. After that, 850, another tricky level that we've tested multiple times. After that, we're going to go start testing some potential highs here. Okay, $9 to $9.13 is going to be our top resistance level. After that, we are at all-time highs, and it's all systems go. We don't really know how high the stock could go up in the short term. Like I said, I do think that if we do get that break over 913 and we set some new all-time highs, we should be seeing double digits pretty shortly. Another thing to keep in mind when it comes to playing the technicals, playing this stock short term, is keep your eye out on the volume. I already mentioned volume a little bit earlier when I said right now the market as a whole isn't doing so well. So volume might see a decrease just in general, but we've seen these volume spike days, and we need to see those continue if we want to see kind of that sustained uptrend, and we want to see a major move into double digits. Because if that volume isn't there and momentum dies off, well, then we could just be kind of sitting in a consolidation zone, which in the long term doesn't matter. But if you are expecting to see some short-term gains, you do want to keep your eye on volume. It's going to be your best indicator of what comes next for the stock. But that being said, let me know what you think happens next for the stock. I'm always interested to hear your guys' feedback. If you have any questions for me, let me know. I'm happy to answer them. If you like this video, hit me with a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to the channel. And aside from that, have a great rest of your night.